Mursi has been elected as the president of Egypt, there was a period of kind of like everybody waiting to see what happens, what he's going to do. He promised a lot of good things. He portrayed himself as the revolutionary candidate. A lot of people who voted for him not simply because they are, you know, pro-Mursi, but simply because they didn't want Shafiq, who is a clear remnants of the old regime. They were fearing the reinvention of the Mubarak regime and so on. So even with Mursi's victory, it wasn't really a happy victory for a lot of people. It was something more of a relief that Shafiq didn't win. Past the 100 days, that's when the turmoil started happening, because we can see that the 100 days he promised so many things and he didn't deliver on any of them, and lied to people. Like when he gave the speech, he was saying, I did this, and people obviously didn't feel that. The common average person on the street does not feel the same high prices, the same low wages, the trash are everywhere, and so on. Traffic is really bad and everything. All along the Constitutional Assembly, that was so chaotic, because it was formed and dissolved and formed and dissolved, and finally when it was last formed, so many sectors started withdrawing, and we started hearing about the debates happening within the assembly of women being allowed to marry at the age of 9, and so many crazy and scary things that we were hearing. But the final draft that came out just around 2-3 weeks ago, that was the most controversial, because by that time most people have withdrawn from the Constitutional Assembly, which left only the Salafis, the Islamist basically sector within it. Even the church withdrew, even all the secular liberals, leftist workers, women, everybody almost left, and within 2 days everything was finalized, it was pushed forward, it was passed to the president put it for a vote in 2 weeks. All along this, there were huge clashes happening in the streets. There were the Muhammad Mahmoud clashes, the marking of a year of massacre between police and protesters, happened another massacre, and so many people died, and yet no one held accountable, no one prosecuted. So you can say that the Egyptian street is fed up and it's boiling to a maximum point of no return. Mursi has failed on every level, very fast, very fast. It wasn't anticipated to be this fast, honestly, even for those who saw him as something good. And with this constitution, it's even accelerating it more, because he is trying to push it for the IMF loan to take the IMF loan, because he can't possibly accept the IMF loan without a parliament. So this constitution for him is that he has to pass it. So then we have elections for parliamentary elections, and then we have an IMF loan that gets the wheel going. When in fact, all along there has been clashes. Egypt is on a brink of civil war. We saw one of the deadliest, horrific clashes between pro-Mursi supporters who are Muslim Brotherhood and Salafis, and the protesters who are opposing Mursi, opposing the constitution, opposing the assembly at the presidential palace, which resulted in hundreds of deaths. Hundreds were prosecuted, and many tens died. And this is not at the hand of police, and this was a first in the revolution, where you see people killing people. We've seen it on the day of the Camels battle, but really this is the first scene that we see it after that day. So it's very alarming. People are very much concerned. People are very fed up. They are protesting. They are not giving up. They're very persistent. The thing is, the more Mursi fails on his delivery for whatever he promised, or the lying, or the rigging, or you can countless many bad things have happened over the 2 weeks. The more he's failing on that, the higher the demands are going. And now you can even put it to the extent that the people demand Morsi to leave. Like, we have reached this point only after 6 months of Morsi in power. Very alarming signs, but very hopeful at the same time. For a revolutionary like me, seeing what's happening in Egypt, I see it as a very optimistic thing, as a good thing, not in the sense, of course it's horrific that people are dying and we are sacrificing for this, but we have come so far to not accept like SCAF coming into power again, you know, to not accept an IMF loan shoved down our throats again, to not accept a constitution that does not represent Egyptians, to not accept in so many ways all of the things that we have fought for from the beginning till now. So I am very hopeful that the revolution is continuing, the revolution will continue, and it will achieve what it aimed, which is bread, freedom, social equality, which Morsi has ignored, failed, and completely went back on all of these promises that he made. And I think this explains his contradictory position. Morsi is in a very tough position. He has followers that want an Islamic state, you know, that want Sharia to be put in place, and he and his group of businessmen, of course, want their economic interest. They want the IMF loan, they want stability, they want the neoliberal policies, and at the same time, they can't completely achieve this, and they can't completely achieve that. So they are failing and digging their grave as we speak. What will come after this, I have no idea. I have no idea. Anything can happen. In Egypt, I was on the plane for 3 hours. I tweeted like what happened in those 3 hours, because I'm not even sure if an uprising could happen as we speak. So things are gonna develop, but the one thing that I'm sure of, I'm counting on the people. The people are not giving up. The people are very dissatisfied because nothing has been accomplished. It's that simple. And those who voted yes for the referendum just because they think it's going to bring stability, well, it's not, because it ignores and rips all the basic rights and all of the basic things that we have demanded from it. It strips it completely. There is nothing on human rights, there is nothing on social equality, there is nothing on wage. Forget about the women question. There is nothing that the woman is a production machine basically in the constitution. And we have fought so much to change all of this, to accept now this. So even if it passes, it's going to be ink on paper, it's going to be meaningless. Even with all the rigging that happened and with everything that this constitution pertains and the whole process of it, it only gained 56% in round one. That with all the, if you vote yes, you'll go to heaven, and if you vote no, you will be an infidel, and that kind of rhetoric that has been basically brainwashing and the people through TV and so on. When you have 40% of the population illiterate and under the poverty line, so with 56% only in round one, and we have round two with a week apart, which is completely like a circus. Like, nobody does that in the world, where you have a referendum to vote on with a week in between. So the whole process in itself is completely a sham. It's a complete sham, and people know that. People are not buying the rhetoric of heaven and hell, and I'll give you this. So the popularity of Muslim Brotherhood outside of the Muslim Brotherhood is completely decreasing. People who voted for the Muslim Brotherhood in the parliamentary elections or even in the presidency, thinking that, oh, they're religious men, they're good men, they're gonna bring good to Egypt and so on. They're getting disillusioned. They're knowing how they play the game. They're basically businessmen with beards. They're the NDP, just playing with religious terms. And that's what we have been saying all along. But it had to take Morsi to come to power for the majority to realize this, which is a good thing for the revolution.